Welcome back to the channel, Crypto Trend Trader, with our pre-earnings market update. We're going to be taking a look at Amazon and having a look at the fundamentals. Prior to that, we want to take a look at Meta real quick. Meta reported earnings last night, and now we see that the stock has surged in after hours, roughly gapped up about 20%, was up as high as 29% on the day, and now it's kind of settling around that 25% mark. This was based not necessarily off of positive earnings, but essentially a fundamental driver, which is share buybacks. So Meta essentially came out and said they were going to be buying back 10% of the stock. So obviously supply and demand dynamics would tell you that the price should jump accordingly. Now we did see that same type of move, maybe not to the extreme, in many other assets as well. And I believe that this move was unwarranted. So tonight we have the big three reporting. We have Apple, Google, and Amazon. And I want to take a specific look at Amazon because I think I have some insights that are valuable. So if we jump over here to Amazon on the daily, we see we had a similar type reaction, little gap up. That was really just the close of the gap from that move down that took place at the end of October. So no surprises there, as we did enter a long position at the bottom of the range, saw the initial move back up to key support here. That gave us 19% gains, and then we see the follow-through move and the close of the gap, as well as the retest of the internal 618. So about a 31% move off the bottom. Congratulations to anyone else that took that trade. That being said, we're not going to be focusing today on the technicals nearly as much as we're focusing on the fundamentals, because obviously earnings is a fundamental event. And normally we don't have an edge on fundamentals, specifically earnings. But in this case, I believe we do. So we're going to take a look at the earnings from the last few quarters and annualize, and then we can have a better idea as to what to expect. So we see here that they already reported Q1, Q2, and Q3 of 2022. So this will be Q4 of 2022, and that will wrap up the 2022 earnings year. So here we are on quarterly. So here we can see Q1 2022, the revenue was 116 billion. Net income was negative 3.84 billion. Profit margin minus 3.3%. And then we see Q2 was revenue 121 billion. Net income minus 2.03 billion. And then Q3 was revenue 127, net income 2.87 billion. So based off of Q1, 2, and 3, right now we have negative $3 billion net income for 2022. So if we look at the recent numbers, which obviously the most recent quarter was Q3 2022, we saw net income of 2.87, and we did see it rising over the negative 2 and the negative 3.8 from the previous quarter. So in order to just break even for the year 2022, which means no actual net income, just a flat zero, we know Amazon's Q4 net income needs to be a minimum of 3 billion, and that's just to break even. With the recent rate of increase, I think it's realistic that they could see something around 6 billion, so that would give us at least positive. But if we switch out now and we go to the annual, if we look at 2020, we see revenue was 386 billion, and that's 21 billion net income. And then in 2021, we see 469 billion revenue, net income of 33 billion. So let's just say hypothetically, Amazon comes out and they go from, the -4 to the -2 to the +3, and then we see a positive, let's say roughly 6 billion for the final quarter of the 2022 report. That's going to put us at 3 billion net income compared to 2021, which had a net income of 33 billion. So we're down like roughly 90+%. So unless suddenly Amazon has some ridiculously high net income that is just a complete outlier from what we've seen through all of 2022, I think we can expect that there is going to be a serious shock effect. If they report less than 3 billion net income, they're going to have a negative for the year. And if we just go back to the quarterly and we see they had revenue of 116.44, 121.23, and 127.10, the first 3 quarters total 364.77 billion. So if we go back out annualized, that means that realistically, just to meet last year's revenue, if we take that 364.77 and subtract it from the 469.82, we get about 105 billion. And then if we just switch back to the quarterly real quick, we'll see the last 3 quarters were 116, 121, and 127. So realistically, more likely than not, we're going to see a revenue number come in around 110 to 140, somewhere around roughly that range. So what that means is we're going to see revenue over 469 billion likely for 2022. So net revenue increase, and we're going to see the net income likely down by 90%, possibly even negative for the year if they don't report at least 3 billion net income for Q4 2022. So all that being said, that is on top of a current price earnings ratio of 96.56. So Amazon is basically trading at 5 times the valuation of the market, and it's getting ready to have done roughly $500 million in sales with roughly $0 in net income. Give or take a few billion, but when it's all said and done, that's going to be pennies in the bucket. And in my opinion, the fundamentals that we are about to get today do not line up with the fundamentals that we're seeing. So I don't know exactly what the earnings report is going to look like today, but when I look at the basic math on this and I see what Amazon has to do just to basically make the year not look terrible, I don't think it's actually possible. I think more likely than not, Amazon is going to report single-digit billions of dollars in net income for the year. Even if they report $12 billion in net income for Q4 2022, by the time we subtract out the -3, that puts us at 9. That's single digit. And that's going to give us a roughly 73% decrease in earnings. So I think realistically for 2022, there's a good possibility that Amazon has negative net income. I think there's an even better possibility that we see net income down somewhere around 72% to 90% year over year. So that being said, obviously this is based off of the fundamentals, and all of these conclusions are deduced only from looking at the previous quarters and years. I don't have any secret or insider information. I'm just going off of the actual statistics that we've seen over the last few quarters and years. But honestly, I think Amazon, the actual earnings report that comes out tonight, is going to be a disaster. As a matter of fact, it's very hard for me to even play out a scenario where the numbers we're about to get today don't look disastrous. Let's just hope that it's not a net income negative for the year of 2022. And if it is positive, let's hope that it's at least double-digit net income. But even then, we're talking about down 70+% year over year. So that being said, what do I think is going to happen with the stock price and the recent bullish exuberance that we've seen in the markets? I think a lot of that is going to get walked back. And I think there is a good possibility that we see probably the most disastrous quarter that we have seen in a long time, at least in Amazon's history. Now, obviously, it's worth paying attention to what happens with Google and Apple as well. But Amazon being such a large company and such a huge portion of the economy, especially in the United States, I think this is really the stock to be watching. So that's it for today. Just wanted to bring this to your attention in advance. I don't know what's going to happen with the stock price. Oftentimes our fundamentals and technicals don't line up specifically in these markets, at least on shorter time frames. But the same way we left a gap right here, we left a gap back on the way up. So that gap is still open. Seems more likely than not that we're going to, at the absolute bare minimum, come back down to that 105 range and fill that gap. We already see that we're seeing weakness into the close. We'll see how that translates throughout the following weeks, months, and throughout the rest of the year. Be careful out there, guys. I don't hear anybody else talking about this and what to expect. Obviously, this is all done in anticipation in advance of the earnings report. We'll see. Maybe I could be completely wrong on this, and Amazon has been lowballing everybody, and they're just going to come out with $100 billion in net income, and everything's going to look gravy. But I doubt it. So get ready out there, traders. I think the market is spreading those cheeks, and Amazon is getting ready to deliver some painful reality. That's it for today. If you enjoyed the video or got anything out of it, make sure to subscribe. All right, see ya.